Today's gloomy weather notwithstanding, summer seems to have finally arrived in Boston, which means it's time to make good use of the all too fleeting months in which it's actually pleasant to be outside. For many of us, that means grabbing a drink or two at the area's growing number of outdoor beer gardens. But enjoy them while they last, because if a bill filed at the State House becomes law, they might not be around for long. Adam Reilly has more.
Hello.
Hi, folks. How are we doing?
Good.
It's a gorgeous spring evening in Allston, and the Aeronaut Beer Garden on Western Avenue is slowly filling up with patrons eager to drink in the sun and some very tasty beverages.
There you go.
Now in its fourth year, Aeronaut Allston has become a local rite of spring and summer, along with similar spots run by breweries like Trillium and Night Shift. But this year, the future looks murky.
If it were limited to 14 days in a 4-month season, it would make this not a viable thing to do.
Ron Friedlander is Aeronaut's co-founder, and he's talking about a proposed change in the way beer gardens like this one operate. Because there's no seasonal liquor license in Boston, Aeronaut currently gets a series of one-day licenses to operate 3 days a week from May through September. But now, legislation pending at the State House would cap the number of one-day licenses at 14 total. If that happens, Friedlander says,
a lot of these places would just be forced to shut down.
And in some quarters, that scenario has made State Senator Nick Collins a very unpopular guy.
I think people didn't think I liked beer. Totally wrong.
Collins didn't file the bill in question, but he's co-sponsoring it after a constituent took issue with another beer garden that popped up in the Seaport.
They thought that it was a little bit odd that there wasn't a hearing. It's common sense. You want a seasonal license, predictability for the consumer, predictability for the proprietor, and a fair hearing to know that what the public's about to consume.
But while Collins insists he's got no beef with beer gardens, another supporter of the bill does.
Last season we had almost 19, and they were right in front of the front door of all our restaurants.
Bob Luz is the president of the Massachusetts Restaurant Association. He actually wrote the proposed legislation because he claims places like Aeronaut Allston are siphoning business away from brick-and-mortar establishments.
That's legislation that's been filed in order to protect people that have invested a lot of money year-round, employees that work in these places.
Back at Aeronaut Allston, though, Ron Friedlander paints a very different picture of the effect that seasonal beer gardens can have.
They kind of bring people into underutilized spaces. They're a positive economic impact on the businesses around them, and at least in our experience, it doesn't always have to be a zero-sum, competitive thing.
Adam Reilly joins me now. I've been to the Aeronaut thing with my radio colleagues. So this sounds like deja vu all over again to me with food trucks. Is that a fair comparison?
Yeah, there's definitely an analogy there, especially with Bob Luz from the Mass Restaurant Association. This concern that existing brick-and-mortar businesses that have invested heavily are being cannibalized. But then there is also this good government argument to make, which is what Nick Collins says, which is basically these guys are using a process that's not meant for them to do something that technically they're not really supposed to be doing.
So who of these one-day pass things are intended for?
It would be people like our employer, WGBH, or if some for-profit entity wanted to serve wine on a given day to raise money or drum up interest. So special events run by places that don't, as a rule, traffic in beer, wine, and alcohol.
We were talking to the mayor the other day on the radio about having to go to the State House for everything that relates to Boston. Wouldn't it be easier for Boston just to grant seasonal licenses and bypass the State House?
It would be much, much easier. But right now, and I didn't know this until today, a couple hours ago, right now state law actually prohibits Boston from granting seasonal licenses.
Alone?
Boston alone.
What's the rationale?
My understanding is that this is a relic of the sort of the good or bad old days when the WASP Brahmins at the State House thought that all the Irish people in Boston were going to get drunk and run amok, and so they've retained control. And you see that Boston can't up the number of liquor licenses, for example. They have to go. This is another element of that.
Ridiculous. Thank you very much, Adam.